Hello, my name is Jan Mevißen from Germany. Sorry, I'll start again. My name is Jan Mevißen from Germany. My talk is called Lost in Migration, and it's about a flexible approach to content migration in Plone. I am working for Interactive in Cologne, Germany. We are a full-service internet agency working on development, graphic design, online marketing, and other web-related tasks. So we have projects from small website to large portals and intranet solutions. We specialize in healthcare and non-profit projects. So for most of our projects, we use Plone, and we love to use Plone. So the talk will be in 4 parts. The first part is the question, why another migration tool for Plone? So in the second part, we will show the basic idea behind our migration tool. And in the third part, we will have a look at a live example and a code example. And in the first part, I will talk about the stage of the project and what is still to do. So to the first part, the question is, why another migration tool? There is already a migration tool integrated in plone.app.contenttypes called Necessitate Migrator. And for most cases it's just the right tool and the best way to migrate Archetypes content to Dexterity. So tomorrow there will be a talk held by Philip Bauer about the Necessitate Migrator. It is called how to upgrade Plone sites to Plone 5. And I recommend, if you are interested in migration, to watch and listen to this talk, because that's the normal way to do things and normally the best way. So the question is, why another migration tool? So we ourselves has a project where we had to do migration, where we got lost in migration. So we have a set of 5 Plone sites we call the cluster. So they were all on Plone 3.3. We have about more than 20,000 content items. It's not totally much, but it's quite a number. So we have a lot of custom content types. They make use of the Archetype schema extender. And I think the Archetype schema extender is not implemented in Necessitate Migrator yet. So another thing is that our customer wanted to abandon one of the 5 sites and wanted to merge the content into one of the new sites. So the worst thing of all is that for our cluster, we make use of a mounted zero. So I don't know if you are familiar with this concept. So what you can do is you can mount an additional zero database in a set of sites so that you can have a folder-like database that could be used and accessed over all clients. So it's to make it even run, we put in a lot of effort, and it's a very complicated system. And in fact, it was so complicated, we couldn't install it anywhere else. So we had this one live implementation of it, and that's what was it. So there's no chance at all to install it on a different system, or even better, on our own computers. So we need a solution that could rescue the data from our page. So that's why we thought about a different approach. So normally the content migration, you have your database and you migrate on this database itself. So our idea is to create a new site. So we have our old content on the source side, and we then fetch all the data for each item individually and post the data via an API-like approach in JSON format to the target site, where we have a clean database, we have a new Dexterity code base, and the content is created each item anew. So we get a new and fresh database, which could be very practical in some cases. For example, if you have some junk from old products in it. Yes, and for it all to work, we created two utilities. So we have an export utility and an import utility. And it was so we built them modular, so it could be easy to extend them. They are easier to be maintainable, and the code is like more straightforward. With this approach, we have some pros and cons. So there are some things that didn't work with it, but some that work. The good things are we could migrate the content directly to a newer Plone version. So, with this approach, so how it is built, we could migrate our own content types without a need to map already magic fields. So if you have your old custom content type and your new custom content types, and the fields have the same IDs, they will automatically created as they should be. So archetype schema extender data works with it. So it's read generically from the schema itself. So we could migrate the content to a different site. So one nice thing that was very important for us is that we could migrate from a live system. So because we have our complex installation, we couldn't install anywhere else, and it just works from a live system without having to worry to crash the database or having problems that the live site will not be available anymore. And one nice thing is that we get a new and clean database. So on the other side, there's some things it couldn't do. So for example, only content is migrated. So all the settings you do on the portal root are not there. Especially it could be a problem when you have a lot of users. So users weren't migrated. We in our case have set up our new sites with the users we needed. So it was not so much in this case, but when you have a larger user base, so you have to think about something to get the users out of there. A different thing is that we couldn't migrate references in the first run, so it is not possible to set references on items that aren't there. So because it's created individually. So, but it's no problem at all. So we had a second run. I made a additionally script which only migrates references. And it works very well with this, but so you will have to make a second run. So for our cluster side, I wrote a transmogrifier-based site worker to export the items individually, and it works very nice. The performance was okay, so we had, for example, for the main site, with mounted 0, we have 18,000 content items. It took about 50 minutes on a low-performing server, so it was okay. And we could do it in live. So good for us, so we could rescue our data, and I was very happy about it to get the data out of there. And our customer is happy about their new and very well-performing site. So it worked very well for us. So in the next step, I want to show one live example and a code example. So for the live example, I have to switch to the browser. Hoping this works. That is not the site I was looking for. Could it? So he is now the Windows guy. What have I done? Okay, perfect, thank you. So he's the one knowing about all this stuff. So I choose to, as an example, to take a plone 3 site. It's the source site, and I will show you in the example first what we have as example content. There's a test folder. Yes, with an we have an image that is in fact a content lead image like a thing I created as an example. So for plone 3, the content lead image product wouldn't work. The folder has as a default view this test page. We have an additionally folder with selected tabular view template. And we have some local roles in the sharing tab. So I created a user called Jan and gave him some local rights on this one. So this is for the content. What we have additionally here, so I forgot. There's a static portlet I created, and on the left side I added a calendar portlet, so to show a migration of portlets. So for the migration to work, we have to do some preparations. In the site setup, there's a configuration form called migrator configuration. So the data is posted to a different site. So the URL have to be given. It's already set. And for security reasons, we gave a key which have to match a different key on the target side. So that's all preparations we've done on the source side. So let's move to the target side. On the target side is plone 5. There's no content. The portlets are set like in the source side. So we have, so that's the default views, for example, the test folder. That should be a navigation portlet on the left when content is there, and there is on the right calendar portlet. So this is things I have to do on the portal rules. So I have to do this prior to this. Then there is this user I gave a local role to, so I had to create the user. This I've done through the back end. So additionally, you have to make preparations for the migrator. So I go to the site setup, and it's a little slow. So there will be a migrator configuration form. I don't know why it's so not very fast. Okay, here it is. So in the site setup, there's a migrator configuration form. So, okay, the question is why the plone 3 site is faster than the plone 5 site. I don't know. So there we have to add the API key, matching to the API key we added to the source side. Then we have the possibility to edit mapping lists. So if we, for example, have a type like 80 file, we could say to which kind of type it should be migrated. And in this case, 80 file should be migrated to the new Dexterity file content type. So if you have additionally mappings for types, you can add them there. It's just key value pairs separated by the pipe sign. Then there is field mapping. So if you have different field IDs for your type, and for example, for a new behavior or new fields in your Dexterity types, you can map them there. And additionally, there's view mappings. So for example, we need the folder tabular view from the plone 3 side, but in the plone 5 side, it's just called tabular view. So with all the settings done, we could start the migration. It will be the transmogrifier-based migration script. So the view is export content. There will be a small form with the information where the data is getting exported to. And with pushing export content, I started the transmogrifier. So it says me that data export is ready. So what I hope is that, don't know why this side was very slow. Oh, it should work. So there's, after migration, there's still some things that need to be done. So what the script couldn't do by itself. So there's two things. One is you have to go to the portal workflow and update the security settings. And you have to go to the portal catalog to advanced and clear and rebuild the catalog, which should be done quite fast. And now data should be migrated. Yes, so as you see, everything is there. We have the navigation portlet, there's the calendar portlet, Going to the test folder. It all took so long. Sorry for this. It worked very well at home. Oh, it's there. So as you can see, the content lead image from my own created Archetype schema extender field is there. Additionally, with the content lead image title I created. And the test page is as it should be the default view of the folder. So next would be to check stable folder view, hoping it works faster. So in fact, on all the content is created. We got the workflow history, we got the local roles, we got the portlet settings, and everything from the live side to a new and clean database from plone 3 directly to plone 5. And here it is. So it has the right table view, it has the right portlet settings. We could open the sharing tab just to see that the local roles were exported correctly. And there they are. So I'm switching back to the PowerPoint presentation. There it is. So next, we have a code example of how you can use the utilities we've wrote. So we wrote an export utility, and you can use it in just one call. So what we need in the plone script is the object, and when we have the object, we could just call the export item method of the export utility, and it will get exported. So it's very flexible. So we could, for example, just make a catalog search for news items. We could export folders. So our customer has added something to their old folders, so we had to update just some folders for them. And you can do like every export with it in a flexible and easy to handle way. And in fact, it's very easy to use. So for example, if you want to migrate, you can write your own content walker for your site. So, conclusion and to do. So, we built this tool for this project, for our internal projects, and it's still in beta. But it was so practical for us that we just thought it would be best to share it. So, maybe it could be helpful for others who are, like us, lost in migration. So at the moment, the target audience for it are more developers because it's in beta. It's more thought about to use and more complicated migration. So we really have no other choice. So we have still some issues we haven't implemented yet. For example, it doesn't work for collections. we could only migrate from Archetypes to Dexterity. So one nice feature would be to have the possibility to export Dexterity content to other Dexterity. So we have no migration of the resolve UID links. So we create the content anew, and so it gets different UIDs. So it could be implemented. So for example, we could get all the rich text content parsed with LXML and place instead of the UID, we place the parse variables there. We could change it afterwards, after the migration. So we ourselves haven't needed it yet, but it's possible. But it's a thing you have to think about. So I think normally resolve UID links are the default, and this is one thing that should be done. So, and there's still some thing to do. So for example, there's still some code refactoring, so where I think the code could be nicer. So we could do more testing, and the documentation could be better. So at the moment, it's just, so we made the tool, in fact, for our use, and it was so practical, and it could be done more. So, but we have ourselves still some open project where we will use this, and we will develop it further on. So we put the code on GitHub. So it's, if you search for interactive.migrator, you should easily find it. For use in Plone 3, I have made an additional product because they diverted too much, and I rather had some cleaner code than tried to have something that works on every Plone version. So if you are interested in this product, or if you have any questions, you can contact me or ask now. So that's the presentation. Yes?
Have you made any special implementation, for example, running import in an incremental way? Because usually you say migration takes, let's say, 50 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And usually make change because migrations are always pretty, need lots of iteration for fixing all the bugs or fixing special cases. And we make mistake, and often the mistake just happens in the last 10% of the data. So you run the migration 40 minutes, and the mistake happens in the last 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. So it's sometimes pretty helpful just, for example, having some option for partial import, so that let's say, okay, import only this particular content type or import only this particular folder, just to have a better, much faster feedback for making changes or testing changes.
Yes, it's a good question. So we ourselves, we haven't thought about it yet. So we just had enough time to get it running. The good thing is that we made it quite modular using these utilities. So in fact, it shouldn't be a problem writing your own sidewalker and your own migration based on it. So it is using the export utility, you can export each content itself. So you can just say export one object. And I think it shouldn't be too complicated implementing it into a different variant of Sidewalker. Microphone? Okay.
So I wanted to ask you about how did you deal with dates, migration of created, modified, and effective?
Yes.
Because I'm thinking you are migrating a site, but actually you want to keep those exactly like they were in the original site. Because those can have a meaning in some cases. Maybe you have some other product they're reading when was last created and when was published, content auditing tool, stuff like that.
That's a good question as well. So at the moment, I think maybe we haven't implemented it yet, but we will have to. So we have different projects. So we built the tool and the utilities we created quite modular, so they could be easily extended. So if we need this feature to migrate created date, we could implement that.
So right now in the fields you don't have the dates, so you can they just get mapped, but except the dates, so you cannot be migrated. The fields
at the moment, it's not implemented yet. So, but it could be. I had one example. A colleague of mine wanted to use it, and he asked about migrating the creator of the content item, and that wasn't implemented then as well. But it took about, I think, half an hour to implement it, and it's
okay. Yeah.
so that's the thing. It's just in beta. So I think it's very good if you have additional ideas or see something missing.
Okay, no, just to know if it was there or not.
You can just ask, and we could put it in there because it's good to have feedback on this.
Yes.
Sorry.
One question or two questions. First question, interactive migrator.
Use the microphone, please.
Okay.
First question, interactive migrator without P3 is for plone 4 sites?
Yes, it works on. So we tested it on plone 4.3 and plone 5.
Okay. Next question. So there's no code for migrating plone to one site?
No. So we had this one example of a plone 3 project. And I think it's our last plone 3 project. But I think the approach itself could be good to rescue data from plone 2 sites. Okay. So I think it should work. Maybe it should be something in the code should be changed. But the approach itself, and I think most of the code would work on plone 2.
Okay.
Yes?
My issue is the lack of issues. In the talk description and when you talked about that, you said the migration, the default migration provided by plone.app.contenttypes is not working for your use cases. Did you create issues for your issues?
And from the normal stuff, so additionally to our uninstallable project, it's the schema extender. So we have a lot of projects using the schema extender.
So did you create an issue in plone.app.contenttypes saying I want to migrate schema extended content?
Not yet, but I think I could.
Because it does migrate schema extended content.
Okay, so
yes, it also migrates collection. It migrates topics, dates, UIDs, and many more things.
So it's as I said, it's normally the best way to do the migration.
Yeah, normally the best way to do before you start a new project. I was just annoyed by the description. I have to be frank here. In the description, you said in theory, the migration works on a pristine site. This is like, how much more insulting can it get? It only works in theory, but only on a completely fresh site. This is, the way you approach a project like that is you look at the code that exists and create and ask people and create issues, and if that not works, and I think you have an absolutely valid use case to create that project with the JSON export and the transmogrifier pipeline, but I would approach it first, like maybe there's an issue that could be solved that benefits everyone and doesn't create a new project which is an add-on, but maybe it could benefit the whole Plone community, and some of the improvements you made to the migration could be in plone 5.0.
So you're right there.
We don't have time to wait for it. Sometimes you just have deadlines. So I guess right now they needed a migration.
It takes longer writing that package than creating an issue, I think.
Yeah, that's true. There should have been a...
I'm fully with you, but in my experience, I've been doing migrations for years and years, and something like 3 or 4 bigger migrations over the last 3 or 4 years, and every migration is completely different. We had migrations from plone 2.1 to 5.3 in all variations. with one-to-one mappings of content types, complete new content types, with complete new mappings, complete new structures. So in my experience, such tools are pretty much limited. Basically, when you're having a one-to-one migration. Our approach is basically we have an export script, which is basically stable running on almost all Plone versions, which basically just exports the structure as a large ini file, all the contents or the schema data into some ini files, in addition to some stuff we pickles, and then we have a specific importer script for a particular project. There is a certain base which is always used, but in the end, you end up with a complete different importer script, which just is focused on the particular requirements for each project. So that's how we are working.
So, no questions?
One question.
Okay.
Did you look at collective JSON migrator? At least was a talk about that last year. It sounded at least partially similar. Although, yeah, JSON migrator, that's one. That's more the export part of the whole thing. Then on the import part, you would need to.
Doing this, I searched for migration tools, so maybe I just haven't found this one.
Read my blog from last year. But yeah, that's a partial overlap. But. Okay, thank you, I think.
Yeah.
Moderator.